Wonder Woman issue 13, legacy number 813, Tom King writing with Tony S. Daniel on the art. So this is wrapping up the little two-parter. I mean, there has been 3 issues tying into Absolute Power Wonder Woman, but the first one was separate, and then this one and the last one have been this two-parter with her and Damian as the team up. And last one was very, very funny, very charming, and we got a lot out of it. And I think this one mostly carries that on quite nicely. The main thing being here that Damian is constantly annoyed and disgusted that Steve and Wonder Woman keep kissing instead of listening to him. And
I would agree if we were dealing with a younger Damian, but this is the Damian that's had romances now, right?
Oh, like but Matt, I don't think he's disgusted because he's too young and he thinks kissing's gross. I think he's just disgusted because he is laser focused and he sees this as a waste of time. This isn't like, oh, adults are kissing. Oh, that's disgusting. It's not that.
I feel like that's how it. That's how it kind of comes off with some of the writing though. In this one, like when he just throws out a gross, I feel like there was better ways to handle Damian here.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought the attitude that was there, the sense of humor from the last issue was still sprinkled in.
Yes, but the dynamics between Diana and Steve and then Damian are very funny. Like that still goes on with the and especially in the backup, that gave me quite a chuckle.
But we'll get to that separately. Yeah. Even though it's more tied to the main book than it normally is, it's still very separate in a lot of ways. This whole idea that Steve and Damian have never really met each other before, so Steve's kind of taken aback about how Damian acts and talks and all the rest of it. Yeah, all that was fun. This issue is probably not quite as exciting as last issue, bizarrely, because there's too much action. Because once this gets going and it's them sort of like doing the prison break and forming the plan and like, okay, Wonder Woman's going to be a decoy because she's the best fighter. Damian is the stealthy one, so he's going to be the spy who gets around and opens up the cells. And Steve, because he's the puny human with no good skills, is going to stay back and press the buttons at the computer to help open doors and whatnot.
He calls him the glorious button pusher. So you have the decoy, the spy, and the glorious button pusher. And I do love that's Damian trying to sell who Steve is he is a federal agent, right? Like he's not just a random dude. But the fact that Damian isn't that familiar with him, he's like, you get the easy job.
Yeah, I also there's a moment where when they get like one guard and they're asking for like or demanding answers to questions, and the guard like answers kind of and says, "Oh, you're never going to do this," blah blah. Steve punches him, and Diana's like, "Steven," like gives him a hard Steven, not a Steve, like a Steven, like she's disappointed.
Steven Trevor. He gets the full government name.
Oh, he gets the full name. Right, so she's mad at him for doing the punch that was unnecessary, and then it cuts to a panel of Damian where he's like, "I'm starting to see what she sees in this guy."
This rube,
So Damian approved of that. If you're playing a video game where you're making choices and it comes up saying so and so approves of that decision, that popped up. Damian approved of that.
Well, and I love Steve's reasoning too. He's like, he could have lied. We don't have the lasso, but we do have a fist. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah. And the big money moment of the issue is when they're doing this plan and Diana's being the decoy. She kind of stands her ground. She's got this armor on that she obviously got in Absolute Power. She has none of her powers. And the guards know that. And the guards say, hey, you don't have your powers. You're not bulletproof. You're not going to be quick enough to actually like block her bullets with your gauntlets and whatnot. But she stands her ground anyway and holds up her arm and the bullets hit off her arm. Although we find out that it actually takes a lot more out of her. She comes across as a badass, but she's actually she's clearly very hurt. Like her arm's like in pain because she's done this. But she basically says that that Hippolyta is now a god, and today that god's looking out for her. Which god's looking out for you? And that's when Detective Jimp dives in, which seems a bit random at first, but then you realize this is all the heroes getting out of the cells that Damian's opening, so it's not actually that random. But because Chimp's the first one you see, you're like, wait, why is Detective Chimp here? What's happening?
And a depowered, so he's not even Detective Chimp, he's just Chimp.
That's right. That's true. He's just chimp.
he's mad.
I mean, he's still wearing the Sherlock Holmes hat.
Yeah,
he's still in the
what
tire.
I'm saying is, this isn't a chimp that looks for reason and logic.
Yes.
He's just there to rip arms off. And yeah, no, that scene where she, you know, where they go, that's no Wonder Woman. That's just a girl with a sword. I feel like that's the entire crux of this issue. Right. And then when she stands there and she deflects the bullets and she's still standing, and her posture, right, the sword's a little bit more down. Like, you can tell she's struggling through stuff, but she still gives that awesome speech of, you know.
Do you know what's nice about it? And I like what you're pointing out there, that she's like standing, but the posture's not quite as confident as it normally is. It really contrasts with a lot of, you know, because this is still Tom King's run. Like, Tom King's still writing these issues, and they're kind of interspersed into his actual run that's going on.
Yeah.
I like that this really contrasts with some of those big, like, full page splashes earlier on in his run, where she is deflecting bullets and she's standing tall against an entire army. And here, like, there's a difference. You can see the difference here. She's not standing quite as proud. She's not in her usual colors. And it feels like, yeah, she is, like, diminished. She's still fighting. She's still giving it everything she's got, but it's harder. It's tougher. And I don't think you can tell that difference.
Yeah, and because, like, in those earlier issues, she was unfazed by all that stuff, right? She was still very much in control. And here, she's still going to stand anyways, having no control over the situation. And when Steve comes to her, he's just like, what were you thinking? And she's like, I'm still Wonder Woman, you know? So this whole thing is, that also reinforces an absolute power. It's that the goodness is what makes them special, not just their powers. It's the fact that, you know, she's going to finish this mission and save, you know, all the heroes that are locked up. Even if it does kill her. So, yeah, just that entire sequence that leads with her standing there, and it ends with "in which God protects you." That was a legitimate fist bump moment.
Yeah, and honestly, I might even like what comes right after, even a little bit more, which is, you know, she falls like to the ground and Steve catches her, and he's kind of saying, hey, like, I hate being worried about you, because he mentioned this earlier on, like, he's used to her being invulnerable pretty much, so he doesn't have to worry about her getting hurt, and he hates that he has to worry about it now. And she points out that she always has to worry about it with him, so you just have to kind of put up with it. But as he's holding her, and she's like, oh yeah, I took the bullets, and it's like, no, you shouldn't have done that. Like, you can't be doing this without your powers. You can't. And like, there's a moment where she just sort of leans into him and says, you know, I hate when men tell me what I can't do. But it doesn't, but not in an angry way. It's like a playful, like, no, I don't care. Like, men can't tell me what to do.
Yeah, that hurt, but you still can't tell me what to do. Yeah. It was, you know. It
was sweet. It was like a sweet line that kind of fit into like the characters really well. So there's panels of various heroes punching like soldiers who they've just got out of their prison cells.
And also, I love the elongated man and Plastic Man. And elongated man's like, yeah, you know, when you don't have your stretch powers, you know, it kind of hurts when you punch. It doesn't hurt when I stretch. And Plastic Man's like, wait, it doesn't hurt when you stretch? So, you know, adding some little bit character flourishes here.
I had to do a double take because I was like, wait, what's going on with the White Martian? And then I realized, oh, even Miss Martian is just in her White Martian form because she's lost all her abilities. I thought, okay, that's a nice touch, actually, because obviously that's Jean next to her.
Right, and who can't shapeshift, right? So he's in his true form. Yeah, she's in her true form. So again,
so that's all fun stuff. And then Damien draws a magic circle for Zatanna to pop through, and everyone leaves through the circle.
And nothing but shade for Connor Kent from Damien, because if you read what he says backwards, as he's summoning the circle, very, very funny.
I don't even know if I did, to be honest. What does it say?
Yeah. So, you know, he writes Anataz on there, and Connor's like, I don't get it. And so this is all written backwards. It says, well, wordplay can be tough for those geniuses who think an S stands for hope. There we go. I was just like, oh, Damien does not like his best friend's older brother or cousin, whatever that relationship is.
I mean, who can blame him? I mean, Connor Kent's he's the odd one out of the family, right?
He is now. Yeah, he's, as much as I hate to admit it, he's kind of their Jason Todd now.
He is their Jason Todd. That's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah, I can admit this. I can admit this though. It's, you know,
he's the Jason Todd of the super family. And just like Jason Todd, he was gone for ages, and we were all saying, who is that? Who is Connor Kent? I don't know. So yeah, Steve and Diana smooch a bit more, and Damien's just like annoyed because they're not following. So that was the main story. I will say before we move on, I do think Tony Daniels' art is only okay here. It feels a little bit in the rush side to me.
Some of the stuff, but then like I think a lot of the hero pages look pretty good. But there's a couple little things here. Like Zatanna, I don't think looks as good as she could have. But I do think the action early on, I think, is pretty well done.
Even just looks the characters who are in it, like Diana and Steve and stuff. I think there's a lot of times where I was feeling like it's not quite as tight as Tony Daniels' art can be, and I was just wondering if like he's rushing things a bit because this has to, you can't really delay this or delay anything related to absolute power. The whole thing falls apart. So yeah, I mean, it's just you have to just kind of put up with it. But yeah, I would put it as just kind of okay house style for the most part. So. The backup in this one's interesting because obviously we normally have these backups by King, and it's usually Bell and Ortega on the art. We have a different artist here. It's Carrie Randolph on this one. And I was a little confused at first when I started reading this because effectively it's Damien telling Lizzie, right, or Trinity, how he and her mother, Wonder Woman, first went on a mission together, right? And it starts off with them standing in front of the Fortress of Solitude, and she's carrying. And I didn't notice it was Boomerang at first, right? It became clear the next page what was going on here. But what this story effectively becomes, it's Damien telling her what happened last issue, but Damien is cooking the books a little bit and like changed all the dialogue, and like suddenly Diana is like, oh, Damien, you're so smart. I've learned so much working with you. And Damien tries to like sound like he's being humble. He's like, oh yeah, but Captain Boomerang gave up the location when we dangled him above the alligators. And Diana said, oh, Damien, this is, like, you're such a genius. And Damien's like, oh no, if anything, this is our victory. I mean, I believe it was my methods that worked in the end, but I could be misremembering it.
and just the dialogue that's coming from Boomerang just does not match.
Oh yeah,
he's like, I confess, you have bested me with your incredible teamwork. The prison is on Gamora Island, right? And it's just
at one point he also says, if only I'd known I was going to have to go against a Robin.
Yes.
I would have known that I shouldn't have fought back.
Yes.
And do you know what I think is really interesting about this? Now, admittedly, it's a backup, so I think they get away with it. But this backup is really only funny if you'd read the last issue, because when you
last two, because
when you realize that it's just going through those exact same events, and even a little bit of this one, because you see a bit of the Steve stuff as well, where instead of like being disgusted, Damien's got a little love hearts around his head saying, "Ah, how nice, true love."
It's so sweet.
Yeah, I this was legitimately funny. There's even a moment after they fought all the soldiers where it's not mentioned. You just see Wonder Woman clapping in the background, like, "Oh my god, Damien, you're such a hero. How could I ever compete with you? You're the best." And it all builds up to the payoff, right? After he said that, like, basically Wonder Woman says to Damien, working with Batman's sons made me realize, like, what if I could be a mother? And Damien makes it sound like he inspired Diana to have a child. Like, his existence inspired Wonder Woman to want a kid. And Wonder Woman ends this story by saying, "Thank you, Damien." As if Damien's, like, changed her life.
She's tearing up. As he's in the story that he tells. She has a tear as he looks up at her.
And then you go next page, and it's the final page of the story, and it's like adult Damien, and he finishes this story, and he says, "So that's how you became you. And as I said to your mother at the time, you're welcome." And then there's just a silent panel of like John and Trinity just staring back at him, and she's like, "I'm going to use the lasso," and John's like, "That's a good idea," and she's like, "Not the gold one, the black one that'll kill him."
Not that lasso. That's the line that got me good. Where she's not that lasso, the black one. And she has it. She's looping it around on the last panel too.
Yeah, and John's like, "Lizzie, I keep telling you can't kill him.
At least not while I'm on planet. Dad would get super peeved."
This idea that they know this story is absolute bullshit, and Damien's just like making himself look like he's the most important person in Lizzie's life.
So that was my first worries when I see early on in the issue that Steve and Diana are getting, very, very lovey-dovey. And I'm like, I hope this is not building to Trinity being conceived during Absolute Power when Diana didn't have powers, blah, 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 blah. And then we get to this where Damien's going to tell Lizzie the story of, how she came to be. And it's all just a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, for the record, I do not expect it to be a normal conception. I think it's it's going to be made of clay kind of thing, just like Diana, I suspect. But I wouldn't be mad if it turned out that Steve and her just have a kid. I think that would be okay.
No, not either. I was hoping this is not a thing where, she, like, we kind of get John being able to be born because of the time in between times, right? During whatever that event was where they came from.
Convergence. I know what you're talking about.
From Convergence and all that side of stuff, right?
I don't think this would be the same thing, though. It's just, she didn't have to happen to have powers for like a week, but like it's still in continuity. Right. It's still
yeah. And so I was just hoping that's not that, because I want not a bigger story, something more fitting of Diana than just me and Steve, got all hot and heavy, and because I do feel like the end of King's run, right, will have a very fitting story of the decision to become a mother for Diana. So to cap it with Damien's story,
I think it's going to be a lot sooner before the end. I feel like I saw on Twitter them teasing that issue 14 is going to be like part of like the start of the story of like that choice. Oh. So. Oh, okay. Well, we're getting there sooner than I thought. Yeah, I think we're getting there sooner than that. Yeah. Shoot. Well, okay. Well, it's coming. Someone's coming. Yeah. Right. Jeez. Low hanging fruit. But with Damien telling the story the way that he was doing it, and the way she's, her and John both know this is utter BS. That was a nice capper and put me at ease for the rest of it. But yeah, these last two issues of Wonder Woman for tie-ins that are diverting us from the main story that we've been enjoying so much. These are up there, I think, as very, very fitting Tom King Wonder Woman issues, even if they have the absolute power, thing at the top. I still think they fit in that general scheme. Yeah, they're absolutely not as good as the rest of the main issues, right? They're just not, and they probably never could be. But despite being tie-ins, they still have little things that feel like it's referencing thematically what's going on in the main story, and then the backups are still going as well. And this backup directly has both a tie-in to the tie-in issue and also to just the ongoing like saga of like the Trinity of the future and how they're all like, a family and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting though that this and Superman kind of did a similar thing, just flipped, where the first Wonder Woman tie-in issue was pretty rough. Like it was just kind of this pointless fight issue. But then we got two good tie-in issues. And with Superman, I kind of liked the first two tie-in issues, and then the third one kind of sucked. It's just kind of funny that Wonder Woman did the opposite, where it started off with a rough one, then we get a great two-parter out of it. At least great by tie-in standards at the very least. So yeah, it's good. Yeah, I had a good time. Art here for this backup. Carrie Randolph. Yeah. Right? No. Is that what it is? Okay. Yeah, Carrie Randolph. Yeah. Okay. Which it's all right. I don't necessarily like. I think Damien looks right. I think Diana's face looks a little bit gaunt for my taste, but minor quibble. I mean, it's just weird though, because I'm so used to Belen Ortega. I don't know if she's just done now doing the backup art, or if it's just one issue off, or what. I don't know. Well, because I saw Carrie Randolph still doing backups in the solicits this month. Oh, really? So she's just a new backup artist then? Yeah, so maybe. But Ortega's just using this time to get ahead, for more. Because I definitely feel like the storybook kind of style that Ortega brings fits this a little bit better than the Randolph. Like, again, the Randolph stuff wasn't terrible by any means, but I just don't know if it has the same vibe. Yeah, I definitely like the Ortega art more for the backup, but I mean, if it switched over because Ortega's off to do another book, then, so be it. But worth mentioning all the same. So, pretty solid tie-in issue, both the main story and backup. The backup especially, as I realized what it was, Because at first there was a bit of confusion, and then it was like, wait, this is just telling that. Oh, I get the joke. And then when you get to the end, and you realize that the other characters that are here in the story are not fooled at all. In fact, not only are they fooled, it clearly suggests that they're used to Damien making himself look like he's the best at everything, and she's ready to kill him. Like, that is funny. So, good times. What are you giving Wonder Woman, Matt?
I'm going to give it a 8.
Yeah, I'm going to go 7.5, just because I don't think that the main story is quite as consistently funny as last time, and I don't think I like the art as much in either story compared to last time. But I mean, still good, like still a really good tie-in issue and a really funny backup. So yeah, not disappointed by any means.